Hey everyone, welcome back to another SUPboarder video. In this video we're going to be speaking about how to look after your PFD so it can look after you. We're going to look at how you can maintain it to make sure it's in its best condition and the sort of tests you should be doing to making sure your PFD is still fit for purpose. People wear PFDs for many different reasons. Some it's because they really aren't very confident in the water. Others it's because they are trying to do further distances, go more offshore, put themselves maybe in more dangerous situations, but they want to remain safe and responsible at all times. And some of you may want buoyancy aids for extra warmth when paddling in colder conditions or for extra storage so you can easily access stuff. Now I will say all of this information that I'm going to speak about in this video is on the Palm website. Palm are a very respected, well-established brand when it comes to safety equipment with paddleboarding, but also a lot of the accessories, the jackets, the trousers, the other layers that you would wear when you go paddleboarding. They've got a huge range of equipment and they have got a massive knowledge base when it comes to all of their gear and the safety around it. So if you want more information, definitely jump onto the Palm website about how to look after, maintain and test your personal flotation devices. So for many of us out there, we understand why we should look after our personal flotation device, because if we need it, it needs to be working sufficiently, it needs to be able to float us and get us out of that dangerous situation. And of course, it is our responsibility to making sure these personal flotation devices are fit for purpose. Very much like a centre or a school, they are in charge of their equipment. They have to be checking their equipment, and we should be doing that as personal paddlers as well. How do I look after a PFD and how long will it last? The second question is a very common question we get from a lot of readers. Palm recommend the maximum possible lifespan you will get out of a personal flotation device will be 10 years. The more you use it, the more that lifespan is going to come down. For most of us using our PFDs semi-regularly, getting out paddling at least a couple times a month, you're probably going to get 5 years out of that personal flotation device. Definitely by looking after your PFD, you're going to get a longer lifespan out of it. The obvious things you're going to have to do as soon as you got off the water, especially if you're in a saltwater environment, rinse it off in fresh water. Don't store it away if there's any moisture on the buoyancy aid. Let it dry in a cool, out of the direct sunlight place. Ideally, you want to hang it up so the air can get right around it. That's going to make it last a lot longer, but you don't really want to be storing it for long periods of time in any warm or hot environments like airing cupboards or boiler rooms. Just keeping it to a standard cool room temperature is ideal. For more information about how long a PFD will last for you and the amount of hours you're going to be getting on the water with it, go on the Palm website. There's a table there which gives you more information and a breakdown about that. Other things you need to check all the times on your PFD are things like the zip. Is there any rips in the fabric, any fading from the sun? Are the straps in good condition? Are the buckles in good condition? This is the sort of thing you're probably going to inspect every time you use it because you're actually going to be using it and putting it on. For many water sports and SUP schools, they're going to have to be writing down and logging that they've checked their personal flotation devices. And if they don't look up to scratch, they're going to have to pull them out of service. Another thing that they will do every year, but we can do every 3 years, is we can float test our personal flotation devices too to make sure they can still actually take our weight. Every good PFD will have an iOS standard and it will have a amount of Newton buoyancy that the PFD will actually have to hold up in the water. Now this is something that we can check every year if we wanted to, quite simply with a 10 kilo weight, a large bucket or drum of water and a set of scales. Palm have produced a really good simple video explaining how you can do this, but if you do this every few years, you will have a guarantee that your PFD can still take your weight and the weight that it was recommended. It's pretty important that you do this with your PFD because if it doesn't float you, well, there's no point in using it and you've definitely got to replace it. If we move on to the Palm Glide inflatable belt, there is also a bit of maintenance with these as well. You've obviously going to be checking out your webbing straps, your buckles, the general material, and also you need to be inflating it every couple of years and rearming it as well. Every 2 years you should be trying this and seeing if it does exactly that. This is how your inflatable belt will inflate, and then you can pop it over your head tied up, and you'll be super safe to go. But you need to make sure it's holding its air, it's doing what it should do, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't do this, there's no point in having it on at all. Check all the components, make sure you can increase the air and let the air out. And also, of course, check to make sure there isn't any leaks. So it would be a good idea to maybe leave this overnight just to make sure it's holding its air. And a lot of you may be wondering, this in the UK and Europe is what we class as a life jacket, not a buoyancy aid, because it's got the extra inflation around your neck to keep your head out of the water. A life jacket in general is the sort of thing that will save your life if you fall in the water face down. But remember, this isn't a full-time automatic life jacket. This is one you've got to put over your head. But you could definitely see the problem and drawbacks with paddling with a fully inflated life jacket all the time is it is fairly big and bulky. Super and quick and easy to rearm it. Just follow the instructions that are on the actual life jacket themselves. Again, there is a great video on the Palm website which really shows you clearly and quickly how to do this. Rearming canisters are about £20 each, and it's definitely worth keeping hold of a few of those as spares, because you don't want to be worrying about not using your inflatable glide belt if you haven't got any rearming canisters. That's just not the way to think about it. So looking after your personal flotation device doesn't have to take up a lot of time, it isn't hard to do. Just wash it off in fresh water, make sure it dries sufficiently before you store it away, and keep an eye on all of its components and make sure it looks in good working order. And every 2 to 3 years, for an average paddler, you should give it a float test to see if it's still holding good buoyancy. And if you've got an inflatable belt, definitely check that every 2 years and rearm it to make sure all the system's working efficiently and you know how to use it as well. If you want to find out more information about what type of buoyancy aids to buy, how to become more SUP safe on the water, definitely check out our full series where we go into talking about buoyancy aids, life jackets, leashes, moving water, tides, weather conditions, loads of videos on there to make sure you're super SUP safe. And if you're unsure of what buoyancy aid to buy for your paddling, definitely check out the full SUPboarder Pro test. There's loads of information on there about using the buoyancy aids and the sort of buoyancy aids which will potentially suit you and your body type and the type of paddling you're going to be doing. Thanks to Palm for sponsoring this video, and thanks for making a great range of paddling gear for us all out there to enjoy. Until next time, stay SUP safe, PFD safe, and we'll see you on the water soon.